600 episodes of this show. I really, really can't believe it. It's one of those things where I look at it and say to myself, wow, what a journey. I have a guest, as you can see, Eli Kwake is going to join in literally probably about 5 minutes or so. Uh, they are, I'm looking forward to talking to them about life, the universe, and everything, because it's going to be life, the universe, and everything. And, this is a really cool event and an honor for me. So I want to take a moment here and say how thankful I am about the whole journey. This podcast started pretty much on an accident. If Robert J. Sawyer hadn't said what he said, it never would have happened. And that's a cool story in and of itself. But since I interviewed Robin, I've interviewed so many people across the world, many continents, many streams, many platforms. And this show has grown tremendously as a result of what I've done, how I've done it, and I feel nothing but gratitude for every step along the way. I want to thank everybody that's come on. I want to thank everybody that's heard me read, everyone that's watched me draw. I want to thank each and every person. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about what's going forward here really quick. And then hopefully when Eli joins the show, we'll talk to them about whatever we talk about. Because as you know, this show literally goes where it chooses to go. So I kind of want to talk about this week. I had a really interesting epiphany. I was heading to work, working a night shift right now, because it's not a bad shift. It lets me do this. It lets me write and it lets me do all my other things, and that's great and all. But I remember going out to work because I didn't really want to go to work, and that's normal. I mean, you got to create and work. But there was this weird moment where I'm walking out the door, and I have a business shoe, like one of my nice fancy shoes, and I have a work boot on the other one. I had this really interesting epiphany. I was talking to Quinn Teachma about suffering and why do people suffer. And I'm not going to talk about there's some just terrible things that we do to each other in the world. That's neither here, but there's a lot of suffering when we self-inflict on ourselves. And I think one of the things in life I've learned as I've gotten older is you don't have to. Very few things in life you actually need to do. And as I've gotten older, it's become easier to say no. But also it's a question we do say yes to. And I just had one of those eureka moments of, this isn't my destiny to do this. Not even for very long, not even for a minute, a week, not even a week or a month or a year. Just, it's my time to change my destiny, to change my future. And that's what I was thinking about going through this whole process is I have to figure out how to take this and make it living, because there's not really much else I want to do. This is it, and I think it's worth something. I really, really do. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it like I have been. One of the biggest pieces of advice I give to many of my guests on here: you work your ass off on what you do. I mean, you have to show your own respect for your own work, and I'm doing just that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the future, and then we'll go back to the ever present now. I want to go on the road. I am literally, there's a couple little details I have to do, among them getting a driver's license, but that's not going to be as hard as I think, because I'm a dual citizen. God bless America. It's easy to get licenses in various places depending on where you want to go. But more importantly, I want to go on the road, and I want to start interviewing people live and in person. So I mean, this summer is really all about that investment in myself. I want to do that so I can get started rolling on the road, and I want to keep writing the books I'm writing. One of my books this year, Al Zero, is nominated for the Elgin Award. And so I'm working on the sequel like a madman right now. And one of my betas actually went to me, you have a page turner here. You have a real page turner here. That's my destiny. The rest, I don't mind. I'll still be doing work here and there, but it just told me that the job I was working on, the job I was choosing to do, is just not my future. It's not even really my present, it's my past. So I'm trying to figure out how to create this wonderful destiny. And like I said, I very quietly just started putting my resume in different places, but not just the usual stuff, but stuff I was trying half-heartedly in Vancouver, but now I'm very serious about it. And I'm going to see what I can do and what I can accomplish. So there's that. I got books coming out. I'm illustrating a lot more. I actually was on Rich Perot's show earlier today, and I'm going to do a little fun thing here and show some of the stuff I've drawn. Like, so we'll talk about the gal on the left there with the crown. That's my first try at Queen Alice. Same book, Alice in Wonderland. This is a fish chasing a shell, a seashell. Maybe because it looks like a heart according to Rich Perota, but it is what it is. And Alice and Cats, all of the Alice and Cats. And I can actually say honestly, my art's improving. Now I'm not quite at a commission pace yet, but I'm getting there. But that's my future. I promised myself I'd be living a creative life, and that's what I'm gonna do, and that's where I'm gonna go, and that's what I'm gonna see, and yeah, and I'm really, really, really excited about the future. Like I said, I got Alice 1, I got Lights Out, which is the first book I'm actually illustrating. It scares me to death. So, to anyone coming in, I'm just doing a little spiel here because this is my 600th episode, and I kind of want to say this. And before Eli joins us, this has truly been a special part of my life, this show, and I want to do at least 600 more. I'm crazy, but this is just the way I'm wired, and this is how I want to do things. So this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life in some form. I'm not meant to be this forever. It'll evolve like everything else does. But I love hearing people's stories. I love seeing where they come from. I love seeing what people dream. The truth is, life is a magical place. We tend to look at the bad because that's a lot of what sells. Oh my God, look at this terrible thing, or oh my God, look at this terrible thing. There are some simple joys and simple magics that happen around us all the time that we take for granted. Funny story of Windsor, Ontario. I was working this place, and I was going home, and the bus service here isn't the greatest. But I remember that night I just saw the bus out there, and I was looking at it and going, well, the worst case scenario, tell me no, I keep going on my way. And I was at the bus depot, like the big bus depot in Windsor, and they saw the thing was there, and they ended up actually giving me a ride home, just me on the bus. It just took me. They didn't pay anything like that. It just took me. Kindnesses are everywhere. Magic is literally everywhere. You just have to look for it, and you will find it. And that's basically what I've been doing and looking and seeing and seeking, and that kind of magic makes life worthwhile. It really, really does. It's one of those like true things, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm appreciative for it. So now I'm going to let everybody, if anyone here wants to ask me a question, this is the time and place you can ask me anything you'd like as I wait for Eli to arrive. They already had arrived, and they gave me this opportunity to do this little spiel because this is my 600th episode. So I'm grateful for that. So for everyone else, if there's any questions, any comments, this is the time. If not, I'm going to be, somewhat silly for a minute or two or three that before Eli comes onto the show. Honestly, that should be like a Jeopardy theme going, like do 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 do. Okay, bad Jeopardy theme is over. I am fortunate that maybe to Saved by the Bell here. As Eli joins the. So is it Eli K. Wake or is it like Quake? I should ask that question.
It's Quake.
Okay,
yeah.
It's Quake.
Yeah.
I feel sheepish because I thought the K. Wake was actually.
No worries.
Yeah. So how you doing, Eli?
I'm doing good. I'm a little sleepy still. I took a nap just before we started getting ready, but.
Yeah, it's all good. I want to thank you really quick for letting me do my little spiel.
Oh yeah, no trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you're my 600th episode. It's kind of cool how that actually magically worked out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know you very well, other than the fact that you are a Kickstarting genius, guru, world dominating, like bookseller on the crowdfunding. I don't know much about you, so you got to forgive me here. So I guess so. Before we start, like projects we love, because I mean that's a cool honor on Kickstarter, and we'll talk about what that means in a bit. But I guess first, like you write the stuff. So how did you get started?
Well, I got started very young. My first writing dates back to when I was 8 years old, so it's been longer than I want to admit.
I'm not gonna note this out. Do not ask how old they are. They may punch me in like.
No, it's been 24, closer to 25 years. So I started writing when I was 8 years old, so it's been about 24, 25 years. And I started writing prose very seriously when I was about 12, so it's been about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the serious moment for you? Like what is it like? I had a eureka moment at 13, but I'm
Right.
curious where yours was.
When I was 12 years old, I was told by a teacher, write an essay about what you want to be when you grow up. And I was sitting there going, well, I've always said that I want to be a singer when I grow up, but that's a hard go. Not sure I actually want to do that. And I kind of looked at all of my skills, all the things I loved, and went, so what can I do? Because singing is going to be hard, although I do still do that. And I sat down and said, okay, the only things I really like are reading and writing poetry. Well, what if I tried to write other things? So I wrote an essay talking about how someday I would love to be an author. And I had to cite 3 people that I admired. And I cited, let's see here, Robin McKinley, Anne McCaffrey, and not really sure about the third one. It might have been Tamora Pierce. It might have been Patricia C. Reedy. I don't remember. But
I'd have bet money on something like Ursula Le Guin. Like that's usually a good. That's usually an excellent choice. Or C.J. Chero. Yeah, I said that right. Her last name always gets me because it's spelled like
right.
It just like, is it Cherry? Chero?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Hopefully, I get the opportunity someday to ask her. She maybe goes, it's Cherry or it's Chero. It's like, oh, thank God, I don't know. Right?
Yeah, the only reason I know how to pronounce Patricia C. Reedy is because I have listened to some of her audiobooks and they say it at the beginning.
It's like, yes, I know. I always thought that was Reed. To be perfectly honest with you, that's what I always like when I summed that one out in my head. It was always Reed to me. So
yeah, I always thought it was Reed also. But.
We both would have been cheapest. Excellent. We got something in common. But you said those were your influences, and
from that point on, I started attempting to write books, and my first attempts were very bad. But I was fortunate. I had a friend. Okay, so very long story short, my mother is a teacher. And at the time that I was deciding I was going to be an author when I grew up, I was going to the school that she taught at, and she would often work until 6 p.m. or later at the school. And the only reason she'd stop at 6 is because I would be going, Mom, I'm hungry. So I would hang out at school. I would hang out with the teachers. I would hang out with the janitors. I'd hang out in her room reading books from her library. And one of my friends was the janitor. And he was the first person to ever read my writing and tell me, this is really good. You should keep doing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he actually has a mention in my first novel. He has, thank you for seeing the promise where there was none.
Well, I'm going to slightly go. I think you're a little too modest of yourself. There was promise there, but never really said what he said. But I get the gesture. But I mean, yeah, totally. That's an awesome janitor. That's a good janitor. Coolest janitor I knew when I was going to school his side business was he'd sell records on the weekend, and he had some really cool like old This was back in the days when CDs were still cool, which,
Yeah.
long. But vinyl has always been able to kind of survive every environment, and that was it. But your janitor actually sounds cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he was a cool guy. I wish I tried to look him up because, 20 years later, do you remember names? I tried to find him so that I could mention him by name in the book, and I could not find him.
So I actually had an opportunity. I had done this with everybody but one teacher. When I finally got published, I actually went back to all my teachers, and that really played an impact on me. But
Right.
one, and it's not because I didn't look. It's because his last name is Sharp, and his first name is M. And if you look at a phone book looking up M Sharp, and you see
There's a
thousands, not
million.
yeah, it's. I looked at that. It was like I'm not gonna be able to
Yeah.
find them because here's the terrible part. You might even be unlisted, and if that's the case, it's like I'm doing all this for nothing,
Yeah.
right? I did, however, I did at least with him though. A friend of mine, there's a on Facebook. This is one of the blessings of Facebook actually is connecting different things. So I got my high school has a Facebook page on there, and I was like, hey, does anyone
nice.
yeah, so does anyone know how to contact him? And one person will respond. It's like, yeah, I told you the story, and I told him the story, and he's like, yeah, he's proud of you. It's like, God, it's not quite what I want, but that was really cool.
Yeah.
My teacher, my other English teachers, yeah, no, I got to pretty much thank everybody because I think it's very important. I do not. People underestimate how powerful encouragement really is.
They do. Yeah.
I've seen people try very hard to sometimes downplay it, but no, that's why someone do. Sometimes all you need to hear is that permission to go for it. Like you can
Yeah.
do this. We need that. Every one of us needs that at certain points in our life. I might actually need it sooner than later, actually, because so I don't know if you've watched or heard. I had an epiphany this week about suffering and destiny, and I don't know if you noticed. Like I noticed this as I get older, I need a lot less shit than I thought I did, and it's given me a unique freedom just to say no, just
Right.
stuff, anything and I just hit an epiphany point with my my heartbeat. Oh man, dang it! But pardon me with that. No, but I had an epiphany with my strategy to reinvest in myself short term, and I work a temporary full-time night job with the idea that I was going to walk away from it, but after this week, it occurs to me that maybe I should just walk away sooner than later, and that what I'm gonna get from it is not worth like the investment of time.
Right.
Right. And when I hit that, it's like, oh crap! Now I got all these skills. How do I monetize them in the meantime while I try to build my empire and take over the world and stuff? Right. And it's like I might need that word of encouragement right now. And that's like that's a thing, and it was like, ooh, okay. So I go back to everybody that's helped me. It's like, man, that encouragement thing, it's really important.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. If he hadn't been there were two. There was the English teacher I had in high school. He came later. If that janitor hadn't read my stuff and said, you got to keep writing, you're really good, you've got something here. I don't know that the English teacher in high school who read my first novel and also told me the same thing, I don't know that I would have been writing at that point.
And you've been writing nonstop ever since.
Yeah, pretty much. I did take a 2-year break where I thought that I was going to be a pastry chef. That didn't pan out.
Although that is an interesting career choice. I actually nearly dated somebody that was a pastry chef. If we had, it was we worked at a place that shall remain nameless simply because I don't want to have anyone in trouble. It was a terrible place, but we met and connected, and we stayed in contact. And she actually is a pastry chef. It's an interesting career arc. It's actually very artistic. It is actually a very artistic career. It's actually, and one that actually pays decently well if you're really good at it.
Yeah.
It's just,
getting your foot in the door is not easy.
No, it's not easy, and also it's almost like you have the best and worst of both worlds. The kitchen is an interesting help for you have to be able to you have to have a certain mindset for it, and if you don't, you're just not gonna last. It's just it's demanding, because even though you are allowed a little bit more time to craft an amazing piece, time is still very much your enemy, even as a
exactly
chef, right? So, and if you can't handle that, it's like, then you shouldn't do it. It's not that it's a terrible job. It's just like, again, every job has its
every job has its pros and cons. And one of the reasons that I stopped trying to find a pastry job was I got quite sick. But I enjoyed it while I did it.
Yeah. And it's tools, right? I mean, now in your fantasy world, you can talk about amazing pastries better than else, and that might seem silly, but from a marketing standpoint, cookbooks about your world are like gold mines.
Hey, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm actually a pretty decent chef, so.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it in a professional kitchen because it's so physically exhausting. And shoot, was that was the year after I was really sick. I actually dislocated my shoulder, and after that kind of not happening again. So.
Yeah, no, I get that. Although I always thought the mental stuff was harder, because it depends on, like, your head chef makes or break a kitchen, right? Because how they cope with stress is how the kitchen's going to cope with stress.
Yeah.
Right. And all chefs get a little the vocabulary at certain points does break down to 4 and 5 letter words.
Yeah.
It just does. And anyone that's ever been in a kitchen will tell you some wonderful things about that. But what makes or breaks a good kitchen, what makes or breaks a kitchen is the chef. And so, but mentally, that does take a toll as well. So
yeah, mentally, physically exhausting. Yeah. I liked it. I was good at it. I still arguably am good at it, but not. I don't have the endurance anymore.
That's fine. Like, I mean, it was a moment in time. You learned what you needed to learn. Probably, if nothing else, the discipline's good for you.
Yes, the discipline. In the years following, the discipline took me a long, long way.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, as I get older, I've simplified, like, art in one really simple step. In that it's all about 2 things: details and discipline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for anyone that's want to clarify, the more specific you are in crafting the story, piece, pastry you want to create, tell, whatever the case may be, the more you have a clear idea of the challenges that are presented. Now, you don't see everything, no one does, but you do get an idea kind of what you're going to have to do to accomplish your goal. You get a decent start on your roadmap. And the more specific you are, right? This is why plotters are kind of lauded in writing a little bit, because they are thinking about those specifics and how to solve those problems, right?
Yeah.
I call myself a planter because I do like that little those elements of surprise that are inside pantsing stuff, because there are some things you find organically that are amazing, but having a battle plan kind of where you want to go is also extremely helpful. I feel like you need a little bit of both, and too much plot and the story loses a bit of its soul.
I agree.
Too little plot and the story goes nowhere. It's like your YouTube viewing history.
Yeah,
you start clicking on stuff, And next thing you know, hours of your life gone by, and you're wondering why the heck are you looking at bunnies chasing a kitten over a hot dog? You don't know how you found it. You just did, and now 3 hours of your life is gone that you didn't plan on losing.
Yeah, I would argue the pantsing point. I have seen pantsers who can do amazing things. It
Absolutely.
it does depend on the person. So then
Well,
again, I've also seen plotters who write a story and it goes nowhere. So
it's obviously it's totally person related. Here's the thing: like, there's an organic magic to being a pantser. There
yeah,
truly is, and if you know kind of how to ride your own current, you don't need a master organized plan. Most people, however, aren't that. Like it's really hard. It's like again, YouTube viewing history. Hey, that's interesting. I need a break. And that's interesting. And you see those that like this also watch this. Oh, why not? One more. And then
yeah,
one more. And you look at the pattern. It's almost like when someone whispers in your ears this one thing. And then
right.
it goes around the table and then it morphs into this weird thing. And you're wondering, how the hell did this happen?
Mhm.
And with pantsing, it's very much about, realistically speaking, can you control your ability to go down the rabbit holes?
Yeah,
Plot helps you with that big time. You can go, okay, what's the story I'm going to tell? How am I going to tell the story? And the good thing is, you don't necessarily have to be a slave to that either. If you find a better way to
yeah,
tell the story, you can throw it away. And then back sometimes when you are just pantsing your way through your plot, that's why I call myself a planner. You throw the plot out the door because, honest to God, what you're doing right now is better.
yeah,
But without that plot, I find for most of us, not all of us, some of us, like you
yeah.
said, right? For most of
It
us,
depends on the person.
yeah, I need organization because I otherwise I don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
That's just me acknowledging my weakness. Yeah.
yeah. I started as a hardcore pantser. I never plotted a story until I got to my second and third novel. My first novel was completely pantsed. Um, I had 2 days' notice that I was going to take this sort of vague idea that I'd had from a dream from like 6 months before. Um, I had six. I had 2 days of notice that I was going to write this. Sat down, went, okay, so I'm going to start here. This is going to be my first line, a line that endured into the actual finished manuscript. And yeah, I wrote the book in 24 days. Yeah, 24 days.
Did it work? Pretty
It
much
did.
how you envisioned it, or did it still surprise you a little bit?
Oh, it took me places I wasn't expecting. And then my second novel, the one that I am doing the Kickstarter for right now, it actually had a plot. I wrote the plot. I referred back to it one time during the writing process. And other than that, it was just like, okay, so the next beat I need to hit is, who cares? Let's see where the story takes me.
Yeah, so like I said, sometimes what you do is better. The idea of the plot is like, okay, it's not for when things go. It's like a contract. It's not for when
Mhm.
things go well. It's when you don't know what to do next. It's like
Exactly.
I don't know. What did I say? This seems brilliant. I'll go with this. Or
Yeah.
sometimes, or the worst nightmare. I'm not writing this story anymore. This is no good.
Yeah.
Right?
The third novel that I wrote, the one that I'm currently revising in, well, it'll get better. Let's put it that way. The third novel that I wrote, I was like 3 or 4 days into it, and I was in the middle of a scene, and I was writing it and going, "This is really boring. Quick, internet, what's something interesting I can put in this book?" And somebody said, "Throw geese at your character," and I went, "Literally?" And I did, and it worked. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not something you'd expect, right? It's like, you know, and it's always fun. I tend to love. I use distraction quite a bit in my when I write my comedies. Distraction's amazing. It's a beautiful
yeah,
way of telling funny jokes and slipping stuff into the plot at the same time. Um, my villain was a mob boss, not a mob enforcer, but he's more of a salesman type. And the introduction to him is him talking to his daughter who wants a pony, right? And you're hearing him talk to his daughter. It's like, Dad needs to eat. Like, doesn't want to work that much, honey. Are you sure that's what you want? I mean, I'll do it, but are you really, really sure this is what you want? Right? It's like because you know, and that's who he is. Like I mean, that's also I thought added some little depth to the villain in that he's very much, you know, he's not like he's like everybody. That's kind of the terrifying part about him too. Is he can really be anyone you know, right? He's a doting parent, proud of his kid, and he's also quietly a monster that breaks legs or other things, depending on the situation. So yeah. So like distraction's a wonderful thing, and so when I think of a geese hitting, it's like it's more interesting. It's also distractions. Like what? Wait, what is this geese, and why is it here, and why a geese and not a rubber chicken? At least a rubber chicken, right?
Yeah.
And, right, or something to that effect. Anyway, now I'm thinking like a Darkwing Duck joke from way back in the day.
Yeah, but that's actually one of my pieces of writing advice for when you're stuck is throw a goose at your character. It doesn't have to be a literal goose. It just has to be throw something unexpected, see where it goes.
Because sometimes that happens in real life. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you started to write really young, and you mentioned some books. I'm going to ask this really quick. What was the book that made you go, I want to write? Is there a book that made you do?
That's a tough question. Yes, there is a book. It is called The Hero and the Crown by Robin Mckinley. I bought it at a Scholastic book fair, so that dates me a little bit. But although I think those are still a thing.
They are still a thing, kind of, depending on the state you're in. Some states have backed out.
Yeah. I bought that book at a Scholastic book fair right before summer when I was 11 something. I took it on vacation with me. I was going up north to visit my aunt and just kind of wander up the Oregon coast and then back down to California. And by the time we got back from that vacation, the book went in the trash because it was literally just pages with a cover and a cover on the other end.
You devoured the book, literally.
We killed that book. We murdered that book to death. So I read it, my brother read it, my mom read it, and then I read it again, and we just kind of passed the book back and forth the entire time.
This shit's good. Keep passing it along. Hurry up and read it. Well, I want my turn.
Yeah, exactly. And I still have a copy of that book. I had to buy a new one. That one was there was no binding left. It was gone.
That's impressive. Yeah. For me, it's Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury.
Oh, that's a good one too.
It is a very good one. So I'm doing like my last. I'm doing 2 releases this year. The second release I'm actually illustrating, which scares me to death, right? Because I'm like, I've never done this before, not like this, but the project calls for it, and I feel like I could do something with this. But it's basically my homage to that story, because I like the fact that it basically, even in spite of no matter how dark the time gets, the human spirit can still endure, and that's the one. That's the message of Fahrenheit 451, and I love that. It's also the only book that's ever scared me. So.
Yeah, that one scared me a bit too. It's like a future with no books. I don't want to imagine that, but
it kind of. I mean, we are kind of there in one very. At least parts of it came true. Like I think the part that really gets me is giant TV screens. Right? Yeah. I look at that. It's like Bradbury was a genius. I'm so sad right now, but he was a genius, right? And that part of it is very true. And the way. I think the amazing thing about today is our desire to amuse ourselves has become incredibly intricate and interactive.
Yeah.
Right. So on that note, like I look at what Mr. Ray said way back in 1955. That's how old this book is, and it's like, some things could be right, but there's also, again, the magic of it is he talks about there's a joy of books. I mean, I think my favorite one is how he talks about the Bible and the Quran and some of these other like these wonderful books. He talks about us and our history and our story.
Right.
And I think, and just the way he describes them in that book is just so cool because it's
Yeah.
like it's a big piece of ourselves, and the words on the page, the desire to communicate and leave a message, like basically for generations to experience and hallucinate and imagine and
Hmm.
experience. I think
Yeah.
that is an amazing thing. If you really want to understand who we are as a species, always look at our literature because our literature will tell us exactly where we are in that time.
Yeah.
So,
Humans have been telling each other stories since we first figured out how.
mhm,
Yep.
exactly, and we are tools of our imagination, always and always. So you, I mean, I'm sure you do have aspirations to hit the NYT New York Times bestseller list, or do
Hmm.
you? Or do you?
Good question. I have not decided about the New York Times bestseller list. It's a this is a longer rant, but it's a little controlled by the big four.
Sure, no, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
definitely politics to it. There always has been, always will be.
Yes.
Um, I had a friend of mine who sold enough books to be in the top 10, which is
Yeah.
huge. Because once you're in that list, once you're on that list, it opens so many doors for you. But
Exactly.
the politics of it just,
Hmm.
yeah, they didn't get there.
Yeah.
But
I would
but
love to see an indie author on the New York Times bestseller list someday. Um,
I think that day is sooner than people think.
I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right. The
Um,
industry is changing rapidly, and
mhm.
that's a very good thing. Um, but
I, I
yeah,
also think just the fact like I've had this talk earlier this week with the fact that crowdfunding is kind of its own separate thing from
it
indie,
is.
right? And indie is its own thing, and traditional is its own thing. What's happened with the publishing industry is, in one very real sense, by becoming this large corporate entity, traditional publishing has niched itself off from the rest of the world
Yeah, it's
in a
true.
very interesting way, because it's no longer. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being traditionally published, and
Oh no.
there's definitely a great career path still for people that do it. But if I can make the same money on my own, or better money on my own,
Exactly. Yes.
why would I go there?
Yeah.
And that's becoming increasingly a thing as time goes on. I find like there's so many paths open to it. It's now really a matter of picking the path you're more comfortable with.
Yes. Yes. Oh shoot, I had something I was going to say. It's gone. So
Maybe it'll come back.
it might.
Yeah.
One of the things about me is I am ADHD, so I will have a thought wander in, and then I will get distracted by something shiny. And sometimes it comes back. Other times, mostly no.
So the magic trick is you sometimes go, well, what was I thinking? And again, as I get older, I get these brain farts too. Although I can't really blame like a magical butterfly walking. I wish I could. That would be amazing. Ooh, butterfly, right? And
Yeah.
I'd be off the hook. But no, sometimes I am a forgetful bastard. Sometimes it's like, and what was I saying here?
Yeah. What was
Uh,
I saying here was it's kind of the theme of my entire life. I've been doing this since I was very small. Um, yeah. And that's one of the things is I am an ADHD author, which focus and discipline for people with ADHD is one of those things that you have to cultivate, otherwise you don't get it. It
yeah,
just doesn't exist.
but it's kind of a necessity there. So you probably do at least a good chunk of the time have a decently iron will of discipline going.
Oh yeah,
I
one of the things that I say in the Kickstarter video for Guardian is I am stubborn as hell. And it is true.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong being stubborn as hell.
Oh
And
no.
and I mean, hey, listen, anyone that's really serious about turning this or any art into a career, like stubbornness is part of it because
Yeah.
you're like you're in the rejection business. Like
Yeah, it's true.
the majority of your job, actually, when you sit there and think about it, is finding the people that like your stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's not even so much the creation of the stuff; it's figuring out how to find people, your people, and kind of
Mhm.
go, "Hey, my stuff is awesome." And even within those people, some people are gonna be like, "Nah,
Yeah,
this isn't for
exactly.
me." Right, and that's the journey, right? That's probably the biggest part of the journey. It's not the creation of your stuff, although that's big too,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Um,
It's the crusade to tell people my books are awesome.
yep.
And,
And you will find 1,000 people who will say, "No, not so much," and then you'll find one person who says, "No, you're right. It is awesome," and that's the person you listen to.
that's right. And what you really hope for is that they are loud and obnoxious. Because if they're loud and
Yes.
obnoxious, this is what happens. Hey, this book is awesome.
Uh-huh.
All right, and then someone else goes, "Really? Are you sure?" "I'm not kidding. I know what I'm talking about." And the sheer confidence of that will go, "Okay, I'll give it a try. What's the worst that can happen?"
Exactly. Yep.
And then one day you wake up and you're the next Harry Potter, and you're like, "How did this happen?" It's like obnoxious people yelling about your book. That's how
Yeah.
that happens.
That is exactly how that happens. I
That's right.
have one friend who is obnoxiously yelling about my book. I love her very much.
Yeah,
She's my favorite.
yeah, it's it. It's like, but that's it. That's what you're going for. You're going for that. I'm fine. Like, you can get like 12 of them, you can take over the world. Like that's pretty much
Yeah.
it because they will spread it and they will tell the world and it'll be amazing and wonderful
Yep.
and I joke because I talked to my grandmother. It's like, hey, listen, you should share my Twitch channel on your page. She's like, no, it's not my like people I talk to don't do. It's like you never know, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, and and the reasons not to do it. It's like, okay, I won't force you. But no, you
Yeah.
want to find that person's like, hey, this is awesome. Speaking of which, Doris, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yes.
That was awesome, right? And it was one of those things where you realize like that's how you do it. Like it's you convince the right people that your
Hmm.
stuff's worth believing in. That literally is the writer's marketing journey in
Yes.
a nutshell. How
Yeah.
do I get people to think that my stuff is awesome?
Yeah.
And
How do I get people to do my marketing for me? Because marketing, well, first of all, it doesn't work if you're just doing it all yourself and paying for it 90% of the time. If other people are doing it for you, it works really, really good.
it's a combination. Like
Yeah.
here's the thing. See, I broke this down on somebody's page. I did a motivation and yes,
Hmm.
absolutely, Doris.
Yeah. Doris is right.
Yeah, very, very, very true.
Yeah.
But so I equate marketing to actually, I sales is considered a really dirty word.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, like, if you really break what sales is, this sounds incredibly counterintuitive at first, but it actually, I think, makes sense. It's not really about money. And
No.
no, it's about the relationships you cultivate with people.
Yeah.
That is the real. I used to, when I was younger, I hated networking.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody does. And then I realized something really profound. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
Right? This is how the world works. And it's actually not a terrible thing because it actually makes a lot of sense. You're going to support the people you know, the people you believe in, the people that you have seen do the work with the time and investment in, right? Like that's the thing. Like you get those relationships established, you're in. There's nothing to stop you. There's nothing that's going to go forward on. It's just you have to put that in. And once you have that, you're like set.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have relationships with people, they will go out of their way to support you.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. I very, very briefly had a stint where I was working as a solar salesman, which was interesting. I was not great at it, but I did learn one of the key things to selling anything is rapport with the other person.
Yes.
Yes.
No, it's true. It's the absolute truth. Like we live in a world. We live in a world where I don't want to hear a sales pitch.
Yeah.
You don't either, really. Like I don't think anybody does. Buy this for $3.99. This too can be yours. Like, oh please, I don't have enough money as is. I'm looking to like keep it.
Yeah.
Why do I want you? Why are you trying to take my money? But then you're like, but if you're like this, so I hear you're having problems sleeping. Well, now that you mentioned it, I do have problems sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I'm sure. Let me help you. What are you gonna do? I got this pill here. Now you're gonna try to sell it to me. Kinda. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm going to give you a couple of these. No charge. Just try them. And if they work, come to me. We'll figure something out for you.
Yeah.
If they don't work, no loss. It's just two pills. I'm not gonna cry about that. You're not gonna cry about that. And the way I just did that is I sympathized with the plight. I offered a solution, and I offered an easy way for someone to invest in it without actually really losing anything. Because now they're like, well, what's the harm? If I try it and it doesn't work, it's like, well, then I can say, haha, it didn't work, and I would have wasted my money. And I'd been like, yeah. But if it does work, I establish a lot of things. I start establishing trust. I start establishing a connection. Then the next time we talk, maybe I get them on a first name basis, and I find out about their kids or their dreams or their aspirations or something about them that's really, really, really cool and true. And then the next thing you know, they'll be more receptive to whatever else I have. And that's true when you go to that's true when you go to a convention or when you launch a Kickstarter.
Yep.
Right. When you launch a Kickstarter, sometimes it's really all about what it's about is that desire to just you're connecting with an audience and you're trying to connect to a very specific audience, right? And once you have that connection, you're like, yes. And then you can talk, right? And then you can talk to them and do all kinds of cool things with them and just build.
Yeah. My first Kickstarter was very successful, and I attribute that largely to the community that I have been building. Two very separate communities. I have the Twitch writers community, and then I have the Los Angeles burlesque community, which is very, very different things. The burlesque community goes, we think you're cool, we're gonna buy your stuff. The writers community says, we think you're cool, we're gonna buy your stuff because we know you can write.
Nice. I actually find those like communities like burlesque. I did a show. A friend of mine, she helped as part of the Romantic Writers Association in Calgary, and they invited me to come interview their people on one of their shows, and I just basically interviewed people all day long. They are some of the dirtiest old ladies I've ever interviewed, and some of them are dirty. I was blushing so hard with this one person. It was just like, but at the same token, some of the sweetest kinds of people you ever meet.
They're wonderful.
And you're like, afterwards, you're like, these preconceptions I have, they don't really help me.
No. Yeah, my first burlesque show that I ever went to, I was going, I don't know if I'm going to like this very much. And then I met some of the people doing it, and it was like, I love this community. I love the people. I want to come back, and I want to do this myself because this is the kind of people I want to surround myself with.
So have you performed burlesque?
I have.
How was it?
It was good to be on stage again. When I was extremely small, before I realized that I get horrible stage fright before I do anything, I said, I want to be an actor someday. That obviously didn't happen. In fact, I tossed that almost as soon as I said I want to be an actor someday, because I get horrible stage fright right before I step on stage, and then it's gone. but I couldn't take the stress before going on stage.
So that got beaten out of me when I was 12. You want to hear how it got beaten out of me when I was 12?
Hmm.
You don't. You do or you don't?
No, I do want to hear it. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know how it got beaten out of you when you
Oh,
were 12.
it's simple. So I was asked to go from class to French class, and I'm walking up now. I'm wearing like this T-shirt and short shorts. I'm 12. Puberty was just starting, so I walk up, and things came to attention. I walked by someone very pretty. I guess I don't know.
Oh no!
Oh yes. Oh yes. So
Oh dear!
Here I am at the front of the class going like this, right? Hi, because nothing I could do. Right, nothing I could do.
Yeah.
If I had been smart, I would have just gone back down to the sat down and not. But I wasn't that smart that then. So, but the years later, it completely. Don't get me wrong. You always have nerves when you're about to perform or do something because it means something to you. You care, but I don't exactly fear what's the worst that can happen anymore either, because I think the only thing that could have been that's worse than that is if I somehow go up on stage naked. I mean, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else that would come close to that.
Yeah, I've not gone up on stage and been naked. I have been very close, but have not been actually naked. Although I have an act that I do with the burlesque community where it is it's a parody that I wrote of smoking in the boys' room called Poopin' in the Girls' Room. And during the intermission of that song, I have it's a burlesque act. I take off most of my clothing. I have pasties and I have underwear, and that's about what I have on. My underwear has what looks like a shit stain.
That's impressive.
Yes.
That's impressive. No, it's. I'm imagining myself as part of the audience now because part of the.
Oh, it gets the best reaction. It's
because it's two parts, right? Mm-hmm. It's two parts, right? The first thing you're gonna ask is like, "Holy shit, she didn't," right? That's the very first part of that, right? And then you're staring at the stain. You're like, is that real or actually part of the underwear, right? Because it's now they're looking at you. It's not even like it's not even necessarily sexual or anything like that. It's more like,
well, no, it's the total gross out factor.
But. Yeah, there's the gross. There's both. There's the morbid curiosity. It isn't quite a gross out yet. It's like they're almost there. They're about to take the leap into like, ugh, right? But at the same time, they're like, there's no way she'd do that though, right? Like there's that little bit of.
I have a story, but finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I now want to hear this story, but I can't believe we're going, by the way, down this path.
Yeah, this is a weird tangent, but
but that's the thing. Like when you see something like you don't expect,
right?
The very first thing is like, no way. Right? There's literally that. There's no fucking way, like moment there, and then on the other side of that though, then you're like, well, what if it is?
Yeah.
What if it isn't? Right? There's a little. That one's probably not as common because once you're in the act, like once you're into that story is being told, people are invested in the story and they're kind of curious with like they're gonna play out the conclusion, and honestly, it's shrewd manipulation and mastery on the stage because you're telling a story, and you've gotten people to buy in, no matter if there's that moment of doubt. They've bought in. You've won. Like before it's over, it's like I got the reaction I was looking for.
Exactly. I'm trying to see if I have the lyrics on my phone still. I don't think I do, which disappoints me. Wait. I'm wrong. I do have it.
Okay.
I just got to find it. It's on here. Nope, I can't find it.
It's okay.
That disappoints me because I don't remember the lyrics. Wait. Ate a pint of ice cream just before my class. Forgot to take my Lactaid. Now I've got gas.
Oh God.
And it just gets worse. But you wanted to hear that story. Are you sure you want to hear this story?
Sure. Why not? Listen. Here's the deal. I've had 600 episodes. If you truly go down a path that's shocking, then you've done something for me, right? Because I've heard some amazing stories on here. So
Okay. So this is not a story that I personally witnessed, but I've heard it several times. This is from so the burlesque show that I performed with is called WTF Lesque out of Los Angeles. It is in Reseda, California. Usually takes place at the Canby, obviously not happening right now. And the reason it takes place at the Canby and not the original place that it debuted was there was an act that went up on stage and had a bucket. That is the correct face to be making. I don't remember most of the details of their act, but at one point, they peed into the buckets on stage.
Okay. Well,
yes.
It's not the strangest thing I've seen on stage or even heard of on stage.
Yeah, I've heard of stranger things, but
it's. I don't go to a show to watch someone piss in a bucket. It's not exactly.
Yeah.
It's not exactly what I call classy.
No. Yeah. Everybody in the audience, including the producers of the show, were like, "Wait, did she just? What just happened?"
Oh
and
my God.
The venue that they originally debuted at said, "Please don't come back. Please don't come back."
Well, no, because you put the venue in like honestly that
yeah, that's a help.
That's a health thing, but it's also there's a couple things, right? It's etiquette. If you are going to do something like that, you tell them know.
First.
Yeah, you tell them first. Even if they're going to be like, I don't know, they still might be open to it because you told them up front, right? Mm-hmm. That's one of those things you go. That one, it's like you're not going to get forgiveness from that. You better ask permission. You better ask permission.
There are some situations where you can say, I'm going to just ask for forgiveness. And there are some situations where you say, no, I'm going to ask for permission. And that was a permission.
Yep. Yeah, it was. And they didn't get it.
No. Nope.
That's strike one. That's actually the biggest strike. Safety's number 2.
I can think of a worse strike. It could have been worse. They only peed.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, if there's a second thing happened, that's been a memorable show.
Yeah.
I mean, that had been a memorable show. But
yeah.
You don't.
It was memorable enough. Everybody who was there tells the story. It's like, this is the first show that they ever had, and somebody peed on stage, and it was appropriate given the name of the show, but also no. They ask now, are you going to do anything that's going to involve any bodily fluids? Some people actually do say yes. There has been some stuff with blood, but nothing with those bodily fluids.
No, it's not.
No,
I feel like it's performance art.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't do it, and maybe I'm old-fashioned that way, but it's like it's not.
Yeah, there've been a few acts at that show where I've been audience far more than I have been participant. There have been a few acts where I've watched it and gone, I would not, but the audience is enjoying it, most of it.
Well, so I remember like when I was younger, like now I maybe have a better appreciation for it because I'm a little bit more experienced with how the world functions and stuff. I don't know, but I still remember I still remember this one like concert, this free flowing like thing, and this band, all female band. One of them in the stage was actually straddling a blow up doll. It's like, well, at the time I was like, I really don't get why you would do that on a stage. And
Right.
and consequently, even now I'm thinking, I probably not. I mean,
Depends on why you're on stage for me.
yeah. There has to be a story being told, but even so, I mean, at that, I'm not even like me being like I still at heart and I have a more tend to take a conservative bent on stuff like that.
Right.
But even so, I'd be asking like, if you're gonna do something like that, why are you doing something like that?
Yeah, like a
Right?
burlesque show, it makes sense, and that
Yeah,
happens fairly often at a burlesque show.
yeah, absolutely.
But
A concert,
mm,
not as often. No.
yeah, if it's a shtick that you do often and it's known as a shtick you do often, sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Even so, yeah, I know. It's like one of those things. I just look at it, kind of went, hmm. Again, I was a lot more judgmental at 19 than I am at 39.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I thought I knew how the world worked at 19, and
No, you really don't at 19. I remember being 19. I made some foolish decisions that turned out okay, so.
I no, well, see, I was uh, this show has humbled me in the best way,
Hmm.
in the sense that I recognize the fact that there are so many different perspectives in how the world works that I don't know anymore. Like, and
Right.
I say that in like the best way. I'm now open. Like, I've always been relatively open-minded, even though I say I have even though I do have a bit of, I'm definitely a more conservative man. I'm open-minded enough to say, you know what? I don't pretend to know how the world fully works. I'm just here,
Yeah.
a small part of it, and very, very small part of how the world and what I see and how I observe and how I react is very much me. And I can't say that what I do is for everybody. But on the consequently with that mindset, it's like I can look at everybody else and go, not everything, but what everybody else does is for me either. But that's
Right.
probably not a bad thing because I'm not the ideal necessarily, and honestly, I don't think anyone is. I just think
No.
we all
Yeah.
go through. I think we just all go through life trying to figure out what works best for us because
Yeah.
really that's what we got. Um, I believe in God, but and I know I'm going to die at some point in my life, but I really don't know if what I believe is going to be what the hell it means when I get to the other side.
Yeah.
So, if somebody else wants to do something else, I might disagree with it in concept, but
Yeah.
what do I know? Like, it's
Yeah, that's kind of my philosophy. I don't necessarily believe or disbelieve in God. I am agnostic. I have always said if a God really wants me to worship them, they need to have a conversation with me. Um,
hmm.
but my belief is that nobody's right, no, sorry, nobody's wrong, everybody's right. And as for myself, what happens when I die, I look forward to being surprised.
Ah, I mostly agree with that.
Yeah.
I my only real rule as far as that goes now is, are you hurting anybody else?
Yeah, that's the big rule.
Yeah. Um, if you're not, I really don't care. If you are, and that includes yourself,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Then it's probably a no,
Yeah.
right? It's almost right. I I might be able to understand it. I'm certainly, but at the same time, it's like, especially hurting other people. It's like, no, hurting
Yeah.
yourself. I am
Mm,
well. Again, see, again
yeah.
that gets tricky, right? Because there are things that kind of make you go, okay, like okay, extreme fasting
Yeah.
actually is healthy in small dosages.
Yes. And
Large
is
dose,
very common in most religions.
yes, right, and honestly, one it's actually very healthy if you can do a long fast. It's actually if you have the ability to do so, yeah, I mean, the only advice I give to people, if you want to do like something like a 7-day fast, stay away from people at the end, towards the end of the first day and the second day, to the end of the second day. Once you get to day 3, you're fine. But that first day, that second day, you are a monster. You really are, and you just need to own it and stay away from people. Let yourself go through this. When you get this from day 3, day 4, day 5, you're great. You actually feel more energized initially. And then when you get day 6, day 7, body's like, you know what? You kind of do need food, and you need to do something about that. Do it, you'll go, but I just need to go so long. As long as you only go for so long, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's the point where you're like, that can be detrimental too, right? So that one, it is a very fine line though, because again,
it's a super fine line, but
well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, ironically, that's one of the things about today is we're re-examining that question of what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. The right to do what you're going to do to your body versus what's necessarily the right thing to do.
Exactly.
Right? And both sides have a valid argument. And it's like, and it's going to be interesting to see how we answer that question in the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually left religion because it was harming me mentally. That is the reason that I said I'm not going to follow the path of my forefathers. I am going to carve my own way because this is not healthy for me.
And that's understandable. This is probably the only Bible verse I'm going to quote in this entire conversation, but it's a very accurate one. A new wine can't exist in an old skin.
Yeah.
It just can't. It just there are things. There are places people can be different and still worship together, but those places are still relatively few and far between. And finding people that understand how you feel, who you are, where you want to be, all that stuff, that's a very difficult thing.
Yes.
It's a very difficult thing, especially again, once upon a time I was this, and like I said, I still believe in God, I still believe in Jesus, but at the same
nothing
time,
wrong with that.
Yeah, right. But at the same point, I don't look at people the same way anymore, right? Yeah. I look at it more now like, okay, are what they doing hurting themselves? No. Will I really do I really care then? Not really.
Yeah.
And even if I did, what control do I have? None. So why worry about it?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right, and that's it. And that's kind of getting to that took me a long time.
Right? Yeah, it can be a hard thing to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not excusing it, but it's just like one of those things. Like I just recognize the fact that when I was younger, I was a certain way. It's like I've had to let some of that go because it's not. Again, one of the things about I say this about the podcast humbling me is the fact that everybody sees the world differently. And if I was that guy I was when I started, I would have missed out on a ton of really interesting people with good conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. I have done a lot of growing in the past 10 years. Actually, no, it's been longer than 10 years. The last 24, no, not 24, 14, 15 years, I've done a lot of growing. Didn't have a lot of choice in a few of those growth lessons. So one of the things about me is I also have chronic pain issues and chronic illness. I have seizures. I have migraines. I have, of course, dislocated my shoulder. And that never quite healed. It still gives me problems. And it has taught me a lot of strength. It has taught me a lot of endurance. It has taught me a lot of things about myself that I didn't want to face. I had somewhere I was going with this, I promise.
Oh no, I'm listening. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
but it has also given me, because I wasn't able to work for a lot of the time that I was going through that, it has given me some time for some self-reflection. I've been able to look inward instead of always looking outward. And there are things about myself that I did not realize were true. Um, there are lessons I have had to learn, lessons people didn't necessarily want me to learn. And that's something I have kind of had to make my peace with.
Well, to this that part, I do apologize.
Yeah.
Not because I know like we just really met. I mean,
Yeah.
I like you as a person so far. If for nothing else, the burlesque story was interesting,
Yeah.
right? Right, but 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 also like I know like I can't say I've ever experienced any of those particular issues of someone trying to deny who I am or who I'm not.
Right.
Um, I'll say it like I'll say like my dad's old school, but he also would let me be who I am. Like he never really tried to
Right.
change me that way. So I am who I am. Having people that would try to out like I don't know if sabotage is the right word,
Yeah.
but it's along those lines like, oh, you're not that, or you are this, that this is
Yeah.
who you are.
You can't be that is basically the message I've gotten. But
Yeah, but you can be, and
yeah,
that is what it is. Um, and again, I don't pretend to know everything about what goes on inside
right.
internal about those internal struggles. Um, I'm assuming if I am wrong, please correct me. Okay, just that because I do not want to jump down. Yeah, and make an assumption that's wrong here. Um, Gender identity.
Gender identity is one, also sexual identity, and oddly enough, my religious identity.
Ah, okay. This is what I will say. Sexual identity. Whatever you are, whatever you are.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I've seen. I'm not going to say I've seen it all because I'm sure there's some things that'll surprise me. But
I haven't seen it all.
yeah, yeah. But on the other hand, I did grow up in high school reading Robert Heinlein. I knew what a text.
Ah,
I
yes.
knew what I knew what a Star David was long before I ever should have. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
um,
I've read not all of Stranger in a Strange Land, but most of Stranger in a Strange Land.
it gets weirder. Like
Yeah.
Heinlein post Stranger is a very different writer than Heinlein pre Stranger.
Oh, I'm sure.
Stranger,
Yeah.
uh, Heinlein. So anyone that doesn't know, like Robert Heinlein wrote for most of his career incredibly decent hard sci-fi juvenile fiction.
Yeah.
Strangers in Strange Lands is kind of the dividing line. It's still got a little bit of those characteristics from those earlier books, but it gets a lot more free-loving, sexual freedom stuff,
Yeah.
and it gets. And then from there, every book he does after that, whether it's Job, Comedy, and Justice, Time Enough for Love, anything in that realm,
Yeah.
right, is
Not sure where The Moon is a Harsh Mistress falls into there, but it's
right before
probably
right before Stranger, right before
okay.
Stranger.
So that was probably the pre-Stranger getting there.
You could like Robert Heinlein's an interesting case study of the evolution of the sexual revolution of the United States because you can
Hmm.
literally see how his writing was colored by it
Right.
as time went on, and he's an interest like that's an interesting essay to write. Like, and people have noticed this about him. He wasn't as edited later on, and that's somewhat to his detriment
Mm.
because um there is something to be said about looking at some of the polish. Like my looking back on Stranger, I hate Jubal Hershoff overall a lot, just because I think he's in the book too much, especially
He,
towards the second half of the book. I think was in there way too much.
yeah,
But um, it's one of those characters he fell in love with writing, and
yeah,
that you can tell that. But all of which to say that I'm basically, and I get the kind of change rock. when you're reading something like Friday or the Puppet Masters or The Roads Must Roll or any Methuselah's Children, those
Yeah.
old books, they're a nice, neat little format. They open and close. They have some cool ideas that are explored a little bit, but like Heinlein's literally the precursor to like military science fiction as we know it today. Like in terms of how the books are written, he's the model. And
Yeah.
up until Moon is right on. It's still mostly that, but there are a few ideas, and then you go to Stranger, and it just goes into this other level. And then
Yeah.
you go to like you said, I think it's Job, Comedy, and Justice, and like I said, once you get to there, there's no going back. And
Yeah.
so that's what I read in high school. I read late Heinlein before I read early Heinlein.
Oh,
Early,
nice.
yeah, which is not usually how that goes with Heinlein.
No,
but
no, not usually.
no, but that's what I like when I started reading science fiction. Like that, like the more recent Heinleins were easier to find than the older stuff. So,
Yeah.
So sexual revolution stuff. Oh man, like I said, I knew what a Star David was way before most kids my age did. It was
Yeah.
like, okay. But so sexually, no. Religion, I'm going to ask this. So what did you decide on? Like that's when you just like found the agnostic thing, or
Yeah, I'm on the agnostic side, but I did a brief study of most of the world religions, and I said this one is the one that fits best with what I personally believe. And I declared I was a Taoist.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Because I do believe there is a power in this universe that we are not meant to understand. Now, whether you call that God, the Tao, any of the names that there are for it, that's fine. But
you're cool with it. Just no, they're definitely like there are bigger things than us, and if you go out
Yeah.
for long enough, you find those things, and they are there. Now I'm gonna admit something as far as the gender one goes. That one I am completely in the dark on.
Yeah.
It's not something. It's not something I feel, and also like there is for those that do undergo a change. I always had this goes into like the self harm thing, and I'm not really sure which way I fall on this one. I get the fact that people aren't comfortable in their own skin, right? I get that, but this is where I get a little off. Like you go through a process like that, you're doing some serious alterations to your body,
right?
Right, and in terms of just like harming yourself, right? I'm not really. I'm not trying to. If I'm coming across very ignorant in this, no, just let me know.
Yeah.
But that's the part that kind of like I look at that as like there's no doubt like you're doing like either way you go, you're doing some fundamental changes internally and externally to yourself.
Right.
And I'm like, won't those things catch up to you in the long term? Like, oh, well, that's kind of like the only thing about it I really like. I look at it, I'm asking a question. It's like, because I get psychologically speaking, right? If you don't identify yourself as a man or a woman, or you're in a man's body, you identify yourself as a woman, that is it probably feels like a weird prison.
It does.
Yeah, it probably does. Right, and it's the only thing and I'm very much in the dark on this. So if I'm wrong on this, feel free to correct me on this.
Yeah.
So while I don't understand it because I don't have those feelings,
right,
I kind of get the concept a little bit there. It's again the mental part, and the physical part is just the part where I just go, like I'm just not sure. And if that comes across ignorant, I apologize. It's just that has always kind of been my hang up with it.
Yeah. Well, the physical aspect that's a little different for every person who is trans or non-binary. Some people choose to transition physically, some only transition outwardly.
Yeah.
I am one of the people who's like, I'm non-binary, so I could do some transition stuff. I could go on T and make myself a little more androgynous, or I could say this is the cards I've been dealt. They're not bad cards. Well, they're not great cards. Let's be honest. I have a seizure disorder. But these are the cards I've been dealt. I can live with this.
Yes.
I do have friends who are trans who have said, I cannot live with this. And I completely understand. So my particular umbrella of non-binary is gender fluid. So there were years where I was functionally trans male. And then I would transition back to trans or just cis female. And I go for weeks, months at a time with just whatever. But during those years of being trans male, it was extremely uncomfortable. So I have all of the sympathy for somebody who's born in a body that they cannot identify with. It is horrible. If there was a way that I could say, if there was a way that I could have gotten out of it, I would have gone for it. But understanding myself as much as I do now, I know that there is no escape for me because I will always be uncomfortable at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, like I said, if I come across anything, just let me know. Just,
no. Yeah.
No, I think that's like that has always been like one part of it that I'm like psychologically. Yeah. I think I was on the right. I'm on the right page.
Yeah.
Just adding it up together for me. I'm still like, But again, as you say, everybody goes a different way as well. So yeah.
Like I said, for my friends who are binary trans, I totally understand where they're coming from. If they want to change their physicality so that they can feel better mentally, I 100% support them. Because let me tell you, if you are AFAB, assigned female at birth, and you are you identify as male, having a period is one of the worst things that you can go through.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, this is one of those areas I'm out of my depth because I don't have a context for it.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So, and when I came out as non-binary to my mom, she said, I've never questioned my gender. And I went, that's great for you. If I'd ever had that option, I would have never asked. But I don't remember this. This is a story that my mother has told. When I was 3 years old, I asked her, Mommy, when will I be a real boy? And it's like, I've always been like this since I was extremely small.
There you go. Like I said, I'm not. Everybody's different on that, and I get that. I get that part of it. Also, I mean, if you look at things in nature, like we have all kinds of genders inside. Because again, there's so many of us on the planet. Everybody's different, so everybody just identifies themselves. There's some people like me who just like, I'm a guy. That's what it is. And they're women. I'm a woman. That's just how it is. And then it's like, then there's people that are caught in between, and that is the way it is. That is the world we live in, and so everybody's got to kind of find their own way. And like I said, once upon a time, I would have been like probably a lot less understanding. Now it's more like, okay, that's cool, and I still don't fully get it. I don't think I ever fully will, but I don't have to get the other thing too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The other thing I realized too is like I don't need to understand everything.
No. Yeah.
Right. Not everything's for me. Right. And vice versa. I mean, I'm sure there are things about me you're like, I don't need to know this, and that
exactly.
That's totally fair.
I do not understand the I believe in God thing, because for me it just, I've always kind of questioned it. But
and you know what? That's fair. My answer to that's always been, it's like this. When I was a kid, I mean, always been told there is a God. When you hear someone speak to you that's not there, one of two things is going on. Either you're crazy or there's something there, right? And you just, after a while, you just accept the fact that something there.
Yeah.
I've had enough. I've had enough experiences in my life that I don't doubt there is a God.
Right.
Now,
Exactly.
now that all said, um, ironically enough, sometimes the definition of people that are that I think fall more in line with what I think how God wants everybody to treat everybody are people that don't believe. I find sometimes they are actually the best examples of what to be.
Yes.
My biggest struggle sometimes is, so my very first book signing was way back in Calgary, 2005. I did my first book. Now I was a complete flake. I screwed up all kinds. I learned stuff that day that was really cool, but I screwed up the possibility of me doing really well at the signing just based on my preparation, which was
Right.
But I did have this great lesson, and this has happened a few times in my life, but this one always sticks out with me. So um, the owner's son was there with me, and we hung out and had a good time. And these two people came in, and they were talking about God. Now he's a good guy; he doesn't believe in God, just but he's a good guy.
Mhm.
And he was letting us just have a conversation, and then they tried to bring him in on it, and he tried to back out because again, it wasn't his thing.
Yeah.
And they, not me, started to have this "I'm better than you because I believe in God" thing.
Right.
I shut that down. I was like, no, 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 no. And I used like kind of the whole idea about, I used the Bible saying, this is how you're supposed to be, and you cannot think you're better because someone doesn't believe.
Right.
You're supposed to be good to your neighbors, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of a, it's just kind of one of those things. Like I've never walked in your shoes.
Exactly.
Who the hell am I to judge you? I mean,
Mhm.
really, I don't know, right? Strictly speaking, you might not believe in God, but you might be following that path better than I am. Who can
Mhm.
say I'm not? I don't know. There's
Yeah.
not a lot in this world I really do know. So why would I judge anybody for anything? I have questions, sure. There are things I don't understand, absolutely. That doesn't mean squat though. At the end of the day, like it's how you treat each other, and
Exactly. Yeah.
that's it, right? We may not agree on everything. That's okay. I mean, I should ask this: like beer, coffee, tea. What's your drink of choice?
Hmm. I'm open. Well, I can't drink beer, unfortunately.
I was wondering about that. That was why I was asking
Yeah.
the question,
I,
right?
I would drink beer if I had the option. I'm actually open to all three of those beverages. Just one of them makes me very sick. So
Can you like wine or any like the harder
yeah,
liquors?
I like wine. I do drink wine. I can and do drink vodka, although the vodka in my freezer at home is mint vodka. I'm not allowed to drink that one. The last couple of years, I've developed a mint allergy. I'm so sad.
Oh man, you can do so many
Yeah,
cool things with meat. You can do so
you
many cool things.
can, and I used to love it so much, and it is
So
just so
I'll,
sick when I eat it.
I'll give you two fun things I do with mint. One's with coffee, one's with the hot sauce. Same reason.
Mm,
Mint's an oxidizer. It oxidizes anything it comes in contact with, so it can make anything stronger. So you put mint in coffee, it's actually much stronger. It actually wakes you up, and it's also mildly helps you fight asthma. So if you have like
mm,
breathing issues, you
which
put
I do.
right, you put a little mint in your coffee and you drink it. It clears your snot. It clears your sinuses up. Nobody's business, and it actually um, it's powerful, and it wakes you right up. Right, it just
Yeah.
wakes you right up. You can also put a little bit of mint in hot sauce. You want to put a little kick in your hot sauce? That is one of the easiest ways to do it. We actually put a little
Mm.
drop of peppermint into like a little essential oil into an habanero hot sauce. Watch
Ooh.
people's faces turn red. Holy, like that stuff one drop. It was like bam, right?
Yeah, and I could probably get away with one drop of mint in hot sauce. I'd probably be able to get away with that.
Yeah. But fair warning. Fair warning.
Oh, I'm a spice fiend.
No, no, no. I have to do my due diligence. Then
Right.
you go nuts. Fair warning. Keep the dosages very. I mean, I get you because your allergies are going to anyway, but this must be stated. I'm putting this publicly, so we got to do this publicly. If you're going to play with anything I'm suggesting here, guys, always start small. If you're unsure, err on the side of minimum. You can always make it a little stronger over time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
You go too strong, you might be going to the hospital or worse. You don't want that.
Be careful.
Tiny, start small. Build, if nothing else, build your tolerance up.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's a journey I've had to take. Have not talked about this yet, but in 2012, I had, well, before 2012, but diagnosed in 2012, I had a stomach ulcer that nearly perforated. I was not able to eat spicy food for years. So I've had to start at, okay, this is the least spicy thing that I can eat, to, okay, now I can eat habanero stuff.
Yeah, it sucks, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, no, it's definitely something like I do. So I asked this, the original point I was going to make is, I can disagree with you about anything.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is, can I have a drink with you afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. And what are we drinking?
Yeah, exactly. It depends. Although I think in your case, it's just based on our conversation, it'd probably be wine, right?
Yeah, wine would be good, or cider, or
yeah. Like whatever. I mean, whatever you're good with, and then we'll shoot the breeze, and we'll talk wonderful books.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably should do that. I mean, we've had a great.
Oh yeah.
We probably should at some point talk about.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably should talk about books.
Actually, what I want to talk to you about, it is about your books, but I want to talk about the choice you've made to do this, which is your crowdfunding. And the thing is, I truly believe this is that the novel aspect of Kickstarter is still very much underdeveloped in terms of there is a lot of potential there that is not really being tapped yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you've been doing this. So am I right, or am I on weird and wacky drugs?
No, you're right. For the most part, Kickstarter has not been utilized. It's getting more and more utilized as time goes by. And I think the reason a lot of people don't think about using Kickstarter or are afraid to use Kickstarter is fear. There is a book by Amanda Palmer. She's a musician. But before she was a musician, she was a living statue.
Okay, okay, you lost me there. Living statue, what do you mean by that?
So the book is called The Art of Asking, and it talks about, so it starts, and this came out of a TED Talk that she did, also named The Art of Asking. If you can Google it, it's a wonderful speech. But it talks about, she started as a living statue when she got out of college. She needed to make some money somehow. And she would have people screaming at her from cars on the road, "Get a job!" And she'd be like, "This is my job." And when it came time to fund an album that she was releasing, she put it on Kickstarter, and it was funded to over $1 million, I believe, which she was not expecting at all. Yeah. But her community that she had built over the years with the Dresden Dolls had supported her so much that she actually got to $1 million. And she had that same thing of people saying, "Why are you asking for money? You've already got so much success from your band." It's like, do you know how much it costs to make an album? It's a lot. And it was more than she had at the time, because she had a team, she had an office, all those expenses that you have. So she put out the album. She actually lost money on the Kickstarter because she made the same rookie mistake I made with my first Kickstarter, which was she budgeted incorrectly. I got fortunate on mine. I had just enough. But for the second Kickstarter that I'm doing right now, I had to rebudget and say, okay, so how do I not almost lose money on this one?
Yes. No, it's interesting. Like asking is a big part of what I do. Like
Yeah, it is.
I asked. So I asked Sable
Right.
about because because again, there's authors that are on Twitch and doing crowdfunding and stuff like that. But I was like, can you point me to people who are doing it? And she referred me to you. And
Right.
I asked you really nicely, would you please come on my show and let's talk about it? And we're finally an hour and a half into well, not quite an hour and a half.
Not quite. Yeah.
I was being a big mouth for about 10 minutes. So an hour 20 minutes and we finally got there. But we're getting there, right? But the thing about that is with Kickstarter and with the fact that it's all about asking. My big secret of getting the guests I've gotten is I've asked. I just haven't been afraid to go out there and go, hey, look, I interviewed Stephanie Phillips, who writes Harley Quinn for DC Comics, and I asked her like this: "Is like, am I cool enough to interview you for my podcast?" In which case she goes, and her response was great. It's like, "Am I cool enough to come on your show?" And so we went and we talked, right? But I asked her in a way that wasn't like pressure. It was just like, "Do you want to do it? And if you want to do it, we'll do it." And if not, that's cool. Like the other thing about asking, what I've learned in life is you're still going to be told no, but that's okay too, right? I mean, you learn something from those no's. Whereas if you never ask, you never know.
Exactly. Yeah, and one of the things in the art of asking is you have to be willing to hear that no. But a lot of the time, people will say yes.
Oh, yeah.
Not 100% of the time. I've heard a lot of no's. When I was putting out Reaper, the first book of the series that I'm doing the Kickstarter for right now, when I was putting out Reaper, I said, okay, I would like to be traditionally published. I don't think it's going to happen for this one. I was correct. But I'm going to shop it out. I'm going to see if I can get an agent, get a publisher, whatever I can manage. And I got all of the no. And then I went to my community on Facebook, on Twitter, and I said, if I put out this book, will you buy it? And I had an outpouring of yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, I mentioned this very earlier, publishing has become very niche, but it's interesting how the niches have kind of divided. Traditional is still a big market, but it's not the market it once was. Traditional has kind of made a decision they're going to stick to a certain kind of book, and that is what they're going to do. There's nothing wrong with it, by the way. Like in all fairness to them, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that from a business perspective.
Oh no, from a business perspective, it makes all of the sense. You do the safe thing.
Yeah, for the most part, there is one downside to that approach, and that is this: the industry you don't grow as a business by playing it safe forever. You
do not.
You slowly shrink. So you at some point you have to take chances, but again, overall, it makes sense. I can't fault their decision. Indie,
I can't do
it. Right, indie somewhere in the middle. You're still asking, but you're doing it you're doing books still kind of in a traditional way. You're just doing it yourself. Nothing wrong with that either, right? Yeah, actually, I find in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder, right? The cool thing about going the straight indie route is you can still get access to a lot of the prestige traditional has. That's the big advantage. Like you do get those options. The downside is you do everything yourself.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And crowdfunding, here's the thing: you don't actually need a big audience to do well.
No. My first Kickstarter, the one that was funded a little over double what I had asked for, which was good because I did underfund or under budget. I didn't underfund. I under budgeted. The first Kickstarter that I did, I had 46 backers. That is not a large pool of people.
No.
But they decided that the product I was trying to put out, which was a collection of short stories and poems that I wrote in 2020, was something worth funding. And that's something a traditional publisher would have looked at and gone, "Are you serious? That's not going to sell."
But at the same time, I think one of the things that Kickstarters opened up people to, and I think this is something that long form we're going to see in different avenues down the road, is the fact is that people obsess over stuff.
Exactly.
Right. And if you can provide an outlet for that obsession, you could actually make a really decent killing.
Yeah.
Right. If you plan for that, like, I don't know if you got buttons, T-shirts, like souvenirs, like weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantasy, right. You buy this. Only 2 backers get these clubs. Don't ask where I got them. Right? It's like,
yeah. One of the things that I have for the current Kickstarter is I actually have a very limited, only 4 people can buy it. $500. You get to name a character in the book.
Nice.
And I was reading through the first couple of chapters and going, I could have opened this up more. This name did not have to be this name. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I actually think that I think what I would do is as like a monster prize, right? It'd be like $250, something like that. Limit to. I will write a fan fiction about you.
Right.
Because I've said this on other shows. Everybody wants to die in a book. That's not a threat. Like, don't do that with people. Make them fan fiction. That is the way to etch them in more immortality in ways they'll never ever expect again.
Yeah.
And what brought me to that attention was the television show Babylon 5. Londo and Jakar, the actors who played them, played a really nasty prank on JMS. And his revenge on them was he wrote a Jakar Londo sex scene as fan fiction. It's an unofficial script, but it actually exists. It's actually written. It's hilarious. It is actually hilarious. That was his revenge on them. And it occurred to me, it's like, oh man, we could have, like, you can have so much fun with your fans and interact.
Oh yeah.
And all you really got to do is open a door for people to play. And when you can do that, you've got all kinds of access. I think with writers, though, I think a lot of writers are learning, I think now, more and more introversion. You have to have some way to be a little extroverted to sell in this world.
It is true.
You got to figure that out. But especially in Kickstarter, that's the whole key to it. Can you be extroverted enough to go, hey, my stuff is awesome and made of cheese? We don't necessarily need to design.
Cheese is not necessary. But
no, cheese is good.
Cheese is good. Cheese is good.
Cheese is good. Yeah.
But not necessary to a book.
No, it's not. But that's the thing, right? If you can figure out a way to make it fun, people will come play.
Yes, and I like the video that I have for the Guardian Kickstarter. I actually like the video that I made for Hindsight a little better, because I had so much fun making it. So the Guardian Kickstarter is very business. It's, here is the book I'm trying to sell. The Hindsight video was, here's a poem. And it was, sit down, let me tell you a story, a tale of a year that has passed. And I go through and say, here's what I'm selling, here's what I need, and here's what I need from you. In a poem.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Not quite the same thing. My favorite piece of marketing I ever did, there's a story of me actually doing an interview with an interviewer with my 2 main characters. Remember the villain I told you about with the daughter? Well, he has like a zombie mobster with him. and all the guy that says his brains in various different forms and functions. It's like my Groot. So you have this conversation going on where the reporter's trying to interview the zombie, and all he gets is brains. He doesn't understand, and yet the enforcer can understand him perfectly, which is just
Right.
like a fun. Again, just it's fun marketing that encourages interaction, right? And it sounds like with your poem though, like on Kickstarter, on video, you almost got to fulfill a double whammy there. You got to perform in front of an audience, even though it was an audience you didn't get the chance to see and play with,
Hmm.
right? You still got to scratch that itch, and you told a cool story in a really cool way.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, okay, so here's something that was the other thing is here's something you can expect from these poems. They're not going to suck because this poem doesn't suck.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of confidence to say that, actually, which is kudos to you, right?
Well, I have been writing poetry since I was 8.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's been almost 25 years. Wow. That's wow.
Big hug. Big hug.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
I accidentally discovered poetry when I was like older, and I accidentally wrote and published a book of poetry. Traditionally, it was just an accident, and it was just
Oops. Yeah, my first novel was, and I accidentally wrote a book.
Yeah, that happens. It really, really does.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I get the feeling I could talk with you for a lot longer than where we're going. I get that feeling. I get that feeling that if we were at a pub or a coffee shop somewhere, you and I, are you a gamer by any chance?
I am a gamer by any chance.
Okay, so what's your game of choice?
Well, lately, mostly been playing games on my phone, but I do enjoy the Final Fantasy online game. Final Fantasy 14, 15, one of those.
14.
It's 14, yes.
I am not mature enough for those kind of games. I am too obsessive. My game of choice right now is a card game called Shadowverse. See, I like math games, and I like using strategy to correctly pummel people into submission. I'm good at those kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about those games is that they're fast. Like if I can play for an hour if and I don't feel bad about that. You can't do that with Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14
it's true.
It is. I did World of Warcraft back in the day.
Oh, I did too. I'm trying to think. Not quite 10 years. I think I made it to 8 years of World of Warcraft. I started during the beta. So.
Okay, so I made the decision after the second day not to play it anymore. Not because I didn't enjoy it. Quite the contrary. I really enjoyed it to the point that
you saw the addiction coming. Yes.
Yeah, I'm an obsessive. That's just my nature.
I am too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I can't do an MMO. I will never do one just for that reason because YouTube can kick my ass some days. So if YouTube can do it, and especially like it's Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy. Let me see.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now board games. So this is like board game. I play something like Dice Throne. I used to be big into Magic. Again, card game guy. That's what I am. Like I'm a big card game dude. But I'm also but again, board games like Dice Throne. I like Arkham Horror. I like elegant games like Suro. Like those are the games I enjoy. And so I'm a gamer. So like me and you could meet, bring a few board games, have some fun, probably talk about life, the universe, and everything.
Oh yeah.
And just chill. You know.
Oh yeah. I like board games too. Have you ever played Flux?
I haven't, but I have seen it. It looks good.
Flux is a lot of fun. It's usually pretty quick. It usually takes like half an hour. But that is a fun game.
No, it is a fun game. From what I've heard anyway, I've seen. Suro I like because it's elegant. Like it's just one of those games where it's just like it's quick to play. Yes, it is. Play it with 5 people. I guarantee you those last few moves are going to like go
Yeah, I've played some games like that.
Yeah, no, it's surprisingly addicting. But I get that feeling. I really, really get that feeling that we could go forever. And unfortunately, I don't have forever. I get the feeling
Yeah.
you don't either. So
No.
why don't we, as we approach the end of the second hour, I approach the end of the second hour, you're about an hour and like 3/4 of the way almost through, right? Something like that. How about this? You need to tell people about what's going on with your Kickstarter, why it's
Right.
awesome, how people can find you, and just the usual shenanigans. But also, I think actually one last. This will be the last question I ask you, and then we'll get to the plugs. Are you going to continually do Kickstarters? But I get the feeling the answer there is a yes. However, I'm going to add with this one. Are you going to go back towards indie or traditional at some point? Do you want to, considering what you've learned with crowdfunding?
That second question is difficult. So I'll start with the first one. I don't know what my future plans are. It sort of depends upon how the next few years go. I have a book that I am currently writing that I would love to see traditionally published, if that is feasible. If that is not feasible, I will probably do it indie. In which case, I will probably do another Kickstarter. I also have another book that I've mentioned that I'm working on. That's in the later stages of the first revision. I don't know what's going to happen with that one. It's kind of contingent upon what happens with the Guardian Kickstarter. Because I don't have any stretch goals for the Guardian Kickstarter, mostly because I haven't even hit my first goal yet.
But hopefully we'll change that with people listening and or watching. Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. But it's doing really well. It's at 65, maybe actually at 70. Let me check real quick. I'm curious.
No worries.
Oh wait. Sorry. There is a fly in the room. It has been driving me nuts this entire time. Hang on. Let me see. Because I saw I got funded, but yes, we are at 70% on the Guardian Kickstarter. So.
That is awesome.
Yes.
How many more days you got to go?
30-ish, 29.
29 days. So you're going to hit your goal.
I'm going to meet my goal. When? Well, we'll find out. But
if I were a betting person, next week.
Yeah, that sounds.
I was a betting person because I think the last thing about Kickstarters that are interesting is you're very busy at the beginning, you're very busy at the end.
In the middle, there's a little lull.
Well, it's the part where it feels really strange. So it feels like you're talking to nobody, and that's actually not the case. I think one of the biggest mistakes especially those first-time campaigners, it's like nobody's here. It's not that nobody's here. It's look at how these campaigns work. People don't get paid until certain times.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the beginning of the month and the end of the month is when people have money. So that's when people are going to invest in your stuff. By and large, you get the odd person in the middle, but the truth of the matter is, it's not usually a big thing. But keep advertising because
people need to remember that you have a Kickstarter going.
Yeah. Kickstarter is a giant candy store. I don't have privileges right now. I'm not mature enough at this moment in time to say.
Yeah, I have packed 3 Kickstarters. Let's hear. Zoombinis, which was a game that I played when I was young, and they re-released it, and I was like, can I have one?
My child did. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I backed Timepool here on Twitch, did a Kickstarter for a zine that he was putting out. And I backed that. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I only backed for $1, but hey, every little bit counts. And then I backed Sable's Kickstarter for A Few Good Elves, because I have read some of A Few Good Elves, and it's really good, and I want to read the rest.
She was fun to actually have on the
she's
show.
She's great.
She's a hoot. She's a real hoot. I met her, like I said, when we did the panel. I was supposed to be meeting somebody else, and that somebody else couldn't make it, and it was like, so it was me, Sable, and M Switch, I think it was. I think it's his name. And
Stretch, maybe.
Yeah, M Stretch. Yeah, that's it. Not my head, but
yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So, but no, no, cool group. Very, very cool. It was fun to do Conduit, and it's fun to meet you all there.
Yeah.
All that said, I think we are near the end of my
We
600th episode. I think we've done a really
yes.
good job. I will say, like, the only thing I'm going to tell you is I keep doing Kickstarter projects, and I
Yes.
say that because it's interesting how this is the one last thing I'm going to point out to people. The first project is always the worst one in
It
terms
is.
of results. The second one will always do better, and like the 2 and 3 are kind of very close. But if you can make it to 5,
Hmm.
that will carve a decent living for you.
Yeah.
It will. And but
And
then
actually, the second one is going really well. I told you about this in our conversation earlier. Um, I just a few hours ago got an email from Kickstarter. I am now a Projects We Love on Kickstarter.
that's right, which is
Yes.
huge. That means people are
Yes.
going to really get a chance to look at it, which is awesome.
Yes.
Right. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So Eli, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
It sounds like an interview to me.
Okay, that's good. I'm really really hot. So you know what you should do? You should talk about this project or Kickstarter loves, where people can find it
Yes.
and find you when it's all said and done as well.
Okay. That reminds me, I need to update my website. I don't have the Kickstarter on there yet. Yeah, that needs to happen.
That does need to happen, yeah.
So the Kickstarter that I am running right now is Guardian. My name on Kickstarter is also Eli Kwake. Let me see. My website is eliquake.com. After we finish this interview, I'm going to go and put my Kickstarter on my website because that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah. Um,
That's the address.
yes, that is exactly my website.
Yep. Excellent. And Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
Yes. Twitter and Instagram are both at Eli Quake. And I have a YouTube. I don't remember what my URL is. It's a bunch of numbers. And on Twitch, I am Eli Quake.
All right.
I'm very easy to find. If you Google Eli Quake, you'll probably find me.
That's right.
And for anybody listening, that's ELIKWAKE.
Alrighty. Well, folks, this is episode 200. Or not 200, 600.
600.
That's right. I've done 600 of these bad boys. I want to thank Eli for being a gracious host and guest. We talked about a little bit of everything. I learned stuff. I hope you guys did too. So for those of you watching, listening, hit the like and subscribe button on my Twitch, twitch.tv/justjoshingpodcast. My YouTube channel is Joshua Cantolarusco. You can find me there. Hit the subscribe button there if you want. I'm on a race to 250 with those people from Raging. I'm going to get them because I'm going to draw zombie penguins just because I can. And Alice Zero, my poem about Alice's Greek mythology, is nominated for the Elgin Award this year. You can go on Amazon right now and pick that up. Alice 1 comes out November 1st. My novel this year, novella, depending on how you look at it, Lights Out, comes out this Christmas, written and illustrated by yours truly. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll have more guests next week. I have some really cool people coming up. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next week.